I'm waiting a long time to do this one. In a world of auto-tune, plastic pop, fast food music, is there any way to save great music? Is there a way to save one of the most important art forms in the history of our planet? An important part of our personal history is becoming extinct. What can we do to keep it alive? With several interviews from Rock Hall of Famers and multi-platinum icons, next we're going to try to solve this conundrum. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you knew or know what the Be Kind Rewind sticker means by heart, you're going to dig this channel. 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s nostalgia. The stories straight from the legends. Make sure that you subscribe below right now to be a part of this music community. And click the bell so that you don't miss out on our latest interviews and song stories. We've got a lot of great stuff coming. We also invite you to check out our Patreon. We do have exclusive content there, streaming right now a new program that's only available to honorary producers and to you as part of our Patreon. You know, over the last year, I've read a lot of articles about the death of the long play album and how artists and fans just need to accept its extinction and just move on. So I'm wondering, does the long play album still matter? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to have a discussion about this. Here's my take. Right now, we live in a stream-driven market. It's not unlike the 40s or the 50s where, singles ruled the airwaves and ears across the globe. Currently, most people listen to different tracks inside playlists, through Spotify or Amazon Music, Apple Music. A popular article from Forbes recently said we live in a singles world today. No longer does anyone consistently sit down for 40 or 50 consecutive minutes to listen to an album from front to back like they used to. To me, this is very troubling, and it should be a major concern to anyone who has more than a passing interest in music. I mean, if artists stop creating a full body of work, a batch of like songs that usually mark the moment, the inspiration and state of mind that they are in, and instead concentrate on releasing a single every 6 months or so, it's going to drastically change the creativity of the world we live in. And truthfully, it already has. I know things have changed, and it's correct that the younger generation probably doesn't sit down and listen to a full album song by song. Or do they? While CD sales and digital sales continue to decline, vinyl sales have had double-digit growth for the last 10 straight years. It's an eminent fact. It's an eminent fact. Beyond that even, vinyl album sales in the United States have grown for the 16th consecutive year. Along that, LP sales jumped by more than 50% in 2021, surpassing both digital and CD album sales. According to MRC data, 41.7 million LPs were sold in the US last year, up more than 45-fold compared to 2006 when the vinyl comeback began. Now, granted, they still only make up a little less than 10% of all music consumed, but it's progress. I still believe in the long play album, and I'm going to do everything in my power to promote, instill, and plead with people to plink down their cash for an experience that streaming random songs in playlists just can't give. Now, every night when I put my kids to bed, instead of reading them the same old bedtime stories, I tell them about a time, not so long ago when music wasn't in a cloud. I tell them about a time when I would hear a song on the radio, and once it was over, couldn't immediately hear it again by, searching it on my phone or Shazamming it or streaming it. You know how it was. You'd have to either call the DJ and request it, waiting ever so patiently to quickly record it on Maxell recordable tape or whatever you used, and just pray that the DJ wouldn't talk over the beginning or the end of the song, which chances were slim to none. It sounds like when doves cry. Or I'd save every last cent of my meager allowance or money earned moving sprinkler pipe in the wonderful small town of Blackfoot, Idaho that I grew up in, the potato capital of the world. And I'd ride my bike down to the market and I'd get the cassette or the vinyl. I can't tell you how incredible that exchange felt. Exchanging money for a vinyl record that held the grooves that could move mountains. Exchanging crumpled up bills for a cassette tape that once paid for would be just ripped open by me, hammered into the overused Walkman that I had with pure joy. I had so many aha moments growing up buying these earth-shattering albums. Summer 1986. I took my hard-earned $12.48 and I bought a true masterwork of the 80s pantheon. A neatly wrapped cassette. I had the money left over to grab the latest Mad magazine. I think I bought a pack of Garbage Pail Kids and a can of Jolt Cola. I'll never forget that utter satisfaction, pedaling home as the sound of the cymbals began to drive the distinct instrumentation that led into the massive life-changing vocal of one Peter Gabriel, passionately communicating the words of Red Rain. As this heavenly music filled my soul, I felt my bike rise, and I was flying higher than Elliot and E.T. along the dirt path of this little road in Moreland, Idaho. But better than having E.T. in my bicycle basket, Peter Gabriel and his breathtaking album So was my companion. Sometimes I'd, bike into town to the record store there, and I'd buy the vinyl, and I'd pedal harder and faster than a Tour de France champion to get to my house. I'd rush up to my room, I'd slam the door shut, and I'd cram my fingernail into the slight opening between the cardboard pieces, sliding that beautiful black vinyl out of its cover and gently placing it on the platter while pulling the handle over and letting the needle carve into those grooves. It's like Pearl Jam would later sing, "Spin the Black Circle." Indeed. The crackle, it was divine. And the music that was generated always sounded, to my ears, like the first time I'd ever heard pop music. No matter how many times I repeated this ritual, it still does that. Growing up with this incredible new music coming out weekly in the heart of the 80s, we were so fortunate to experience so many incredible genres and so many incredible artists, both high and lowbrow. I don't care. I liked it all. Whether it was Bon Jovi's Slippery When Wet, Bruce Springsteen, Born in the USA, Prince, Purple Rain, Phil Collins, No Jacket Required, Journey, Escape, U2, The Joshua Tree, Billy Joel, The Stranger, Fleetwood Mac Rumours, R.E.M. Document, Janet Jackson, Control, Wham, Make It Big, Michael Jackson, Thriller, The Smiths, The Queen is Dead, Quiet Riot, Metal Health. Later, I would discover all the great music of the 60s, Pet Sound, Sgt. Pepper, Blonde on Blonde, just to name a few. From my dad's collection that was crowned by the Beatles, CCR, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Alice Cooper, Neil Diamond, and of course the Stones. My dad had great taste in music. Hearing music as a cohesive work has always been the purest definition of what it feels like to be truly alive, truly awake, present, and connected to the universe. It was my religion. It still is. Oh, and by the way, if the future really does give way to the headlines and the haters, like the Forbes one that says that the music album is dead, but not everyone's accepted it yet. If this happens, taking into account the album examples that I just gave, then songs like Prince's The Beautiful Ones, Scenes from an Italian Restaurant by Billy Joel, I Just Wasn't Made for These Times by the Beach Boys, A Day in the Life by the Beatles,
Italian restaurant. Was it made for these times?
Visions of Johanna by Bob Dylan, Stone in Love by Journey, Mercy Street, Peter Gabriel, Running to Stand Still by U2.
These visions of Johanna. Stone in
World Leader Pretend by R.E.M., The Chain by Fleetwood Mac, even No Surrender by Bruce Springsteen. You get the point. They probably don't exist or maybe never ever get heard or recorded.
Use them well.
Why are they trying to force a rule that says that music needs to be created to reach the lowest common denominator? Seriously, it's incredibly frustrating when commerce tramples all over art. It's been happening for a long time. Well, my friends, it's time to dig a little deeper because there will come a time when technology will destroy us. It's already happening. I just refuse to listen to these articles that are usually written by people who haven't sung, written, or produced one note of music, by the way. Most of the greatest artists in history are far more known for their albums than the singles that came from the albums, and we're better off for it. Bob Dylan, Rush, Grateful Dead, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin. I mean, Rush and Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin only had a handful of hit singles. If those bands' greatest albums like Dark Side of the Moon or Physical Graffiti or Permanent Waves were made today, would anybody even hear them? Without these albums and countless others, scores of humans on this planet would be completely different people altogether. I definitely would. We were really lucky in the 70s and 80s because for us, a lot of artists like Michael Jackson or Pink Floyd or Prince or Bruce Springsteen, Billy Joel, Def Leppard, Journey, Peter Gabriel, Dire Straits, Whitney Houston, Bon Jovi, INXS, Guns N' Roses. Most of their releases really were like greatest hits albums because they were filled to the brim with classics and just great songs. There's just something so magical about the physical album that Spotify or Apple Music can never compete with. Like the amazing treasure hunt of going into the record store and exploring every stack, every bin, discovering artists from the art of the album cover and having long philosophical renderings or conversations about Pink Floyd or Rush with the clerks, searching with valor for that one Morrissey or Smith's B-side that had eluded you and me for so many years. I've done that a ton of times and spent a lot of money on it. I mean, an artist releasing a new record, it used to be an event. We used to count down the days to the world premiere video on MTV and prepare with great anticipation for the big day that the album would finally drop to the public. I mean, how many of you, like me, cut school to be the first one in line for them to raise up the gate, feeling your heart skip a beat when the clerk opened that gate, of the Music Land or Sam Goody, and remembering how wonderful it felt holding the new U2 or Guns N' Roses or Smith's album or Morrissey album in your hands, The Cure. It was just a joy that words simply can't describe. I remember buying The Cure Wish the first day it came out, the first second it came out. To create the next great long play album, that was once the greatest aspiration that an artist or producer could ever strive for. And talking with Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees and Songwriting Hall of Fame recipients and power couple Barry Mann and Cynthia Weil, who wrote some of the greatest songs in history, including We Gotta Get Out of This Place for the Animals, which Bruce Springsteen said summed up his entire career.
Yeah, we gotta get out of this place.
On Broadway for the Drifters, and the most listened to song of the 20th century, You've Lost That Love and Feeling.
Something beautiful dying. Something beautiful's dying.
A thing or two about music, they shared their feelings about it.
A great record produced by a great producer, great singers, and a great song. And they all meshed.
Yeah, it was just the perfect marriage of every entity that makes a record.
And that's fortunate when you can have that happen.
But now it's a completely different songwriting business. And, people write tracks, and now they call the melodic line the top line. It's no longer a song, it's a top line.
So
and then they give it out to different lyricists to write lyrics and see who they like the best. And it's a soulless way of songwriting.
The thing that I miss so much is, as a kid, either having the cassette or the product, the physical product, putting that record on and looking, picking up a record like this, the Righteous Brothers, and looking at the cover and the back and reading the liner notes. The new generation is missing out on that.
Sure.
It's really sad, because I think that it gives you a conduit into the music,
Yes.
a snapshot of what, who wrote this song and who, because I always used to listen to the Top 40 Countdown with Casey Kasem. He would tell a story behind the song and talk about, Barry Mann and Cynthia Weil, and they wrote these great songs in the 60s, and then he'd play a song. And that connected you to all of that music, and now that's missing.
That's great. I think what you're doing is just fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
It really is. It's great.
And we got to keep these songs going in people's minds. Recently, I was speaking to a very popular modern frontman of a multi-platinum band about their newest record, and he was explaining the genesis behind that album as a whole. He told me, about every intricate detail from its origin, what music inspired it, where his psyche was at that moment, his thinking on the album cover, and how it related to the batch of songs he created as a cohesive unit. His take on the theme that was running through that album, his passion, his ambition, and his feelings were laid bare. I just really admired his hunger to convey his innermost thoughts sonically to his audience as he told me what this album meant to him. He's an artist who really cares about his message and how it's delivered song by song. I'm telling you right now, our culture can't afford to lose this. With this weighing heavily on my mind, I was talking with singer-songwriter Don McLean, the multi-platinum troubadour behind some of the greatest songs ever. Of course, American Pie and Vincent come to mind.
American Pie drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry.
And I asked him his thoughts on the death of the LP, and he said, the album is where the art is. It's just perverse to take the hit and throw away the art. That's perversion. In fact, it's the essence of perversion. It's like sex without love.
That's where the art is. It's perverse to take just a hit and throw away the art. That's perversion. That is the essence of perversion. Like I said, it's sex without love.
In closing, I want to share a conversation I had with Grammy-winning multi-platinum singer-songwriter Richard Marx, who himself is in the record books by being the first solo artist to have his first 7 singles hit the top 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. 3 of them went to number 1. I mean, his record sales worldwide exceed 30 million, so he knows a couple things about music. I mean, I've interviewed hundreds of artists over the years about their music, but Richard is just one of the funniest guys. He's a wise steward of the business of music, and he summed up the problems in the music industry as succinctly as I've ever heard.
I've always loved that song, and that was when B-sides were important. And I didn't want to burn my own song, because any song that's a B-side is like telegraphing to everybody that it's not good enough to be on the album or whatever. Right. So I would just do covers, because I don't ever do covers unless they're B-sides. And it's no disrespect to the song. They're songs I've always wanted to sing, but that's what I'll put on. That's what I always used to put on.
Well,
B-sides.
that's what's sad is, I remember going to record stores and you would try to find that single, that maxi single, whatever it was, to get that B-side that you wouldn't be able to get. And now that's kind of a lost art because you can just get anything, anywhere, anytime.
Everything is available everywhere.
Yep. And in some ways, it kind of takes the value away from music, because I've got a 14-year-old and a 15-year-old. They go through stuff so quick. They hear a song they like, they Shazam it, they go to Wikipedia, and then they're on to the next one. Whereas, with your record, I could sit and I'd listen, like I know the album tracks, that were never released. And now that's kind of lost a little bit.
I have a theory about all that, which is when I was a kid, music was this big. It was a 12-inch album.
Yeah.
And when you were a teenager, CDs, right?
Early 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your music was that big. And now you can't see it. And I do believe that there is a mental connection with the consumer that when something is so small that you can't even see it, how valuable can it really be? So it's not that people don't care about music. It's just that the value of it has sort of intrinsically gotten so small that there was a correlation, I think. That, and the fact that you can carry everything, like, oh my God, I can carry my entire music collection on my phone.
I know.
It went from that to, I've got everything, it's all on my phone, I don't need to listen,
I got Spotify, I can pull up a song anytime I want.
It's all too easy.
Yeah, and it's like, but I mean, that's why, a record is so cool, because I mean, it's a piece of art, man. Yeah. Anyway.
But I don't think that toothpaste is ever going back in the tube. So the question now is, how do we redo? What's the next? We had MTV save the music business for a while. We had CDs save the music business. We had Now we need a new savior. And you know, I think it's up to guys like me to sort of band together and figure out what that's going to be.
Well, that's what we hope this show can help with, that is to teach the younger generation about the Chuck Berrys and the Brian Wilsons and the Richard Marxes and say, this is why this was so important. And there is a little bit of hope because records are sold and vinyls are being sold in Barnes & Noble now.
Yeah.
You know, because of the hipsters, you know, wanting that, like you said, to feel it, touch it.
Yeah, I think we sort of have to implode and be reborn.
Rebuild again. All right, enough nostalgia. I know I'm going to have the typical negative Nellies calling me the old man yelling to the kids to get off the lawn. Maybe, but I'm right. I know I'm right. To sum it up as succinctly as I can, to those who claim that the long play album is dead and that we should just accept it, I say that we won't accept it. Or at least I won't. And I'll bet that the bands and artists who create the music because it's what electrifies them, or the artists that, you know, it's the reason why blood flows through their veins, as opposed to those who create it for fame or power or money. I bet that those true artists will always put the blood, sweat, and tears to gift the world a full body of work. I can always cling to that hope. To end out, I'm going to repeat the mantra of a song released in the not-so-distant past. This is Radio Nowhere. Is there anybody alive out there? I think there is. Now, I'm not ignorant enough to think that we don't have to innovate. As a famous man once said, innovate or die. So let me pose another question to those who may feel as I do. How do we innovate and keep the long play album alive? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your take. Let's figure this out together. If you like our videos, we ask you to subscribe to our channel. Help us keep the music alive. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.